February 11th, 2024. Elizabeth Maitland, Duchess of Lauderdale, 1626 to 1698, was a prominent figure amongst 17th century English and Scottish nobility, known for her beauty, influence, and involvement in politics and the arts of her time. Born Elizabeth Murray, she was raised in court circles during the years leading up to the English Civil War and received well-rounded education from her parents. She had 11 children by her first husband, Lionel Talmadge, 5 of whom survived to adulthood. Upon her father's death, she inherited Ham House, her childhood home, as well as his titles, becoming Countess of Darsant and Lady Hung in Tower. During the interregnum, she was involved with efforts to save the monarchy. After Lionel's death, she married John Maitland, a close advisor to Charles II, bringing her into the heart of politics. She later became Duchess of Lauderdale. During their marriage, they substantially remodeled Ham House, filling it with luxury furnishing and artwork. Elizabeth died there in 1698. February 12, 2024. Taxi Driver is the second collection of British designer Alexander McQueen for his euphonymous fashion house. It was named after the 1976 film Taxi Driver and his father, who was a London taxicab. McQueen developed the collection following his 1992 graduation from art school. At the time, he was unemployed and seeking a job in the fashion industry. Although reluctant to launch his own company, he worked on designs on his pastime to pass the time. The collection included experimental techniques and silhouettes, notably the bumster trouser, whose extremely low waist exposed the top of the intergluteal cleft. In lieu of the traditional fashion show, Taxi Driver was exhibited in a room in the Ritz Hotel during the London Fashion Week in March 1993. Aided by magazine editor Isabel Bow, the collection garnered positive reviews. When the exhibition ended, McQueen packed the clothing in bin bags and went clubbing. He left the bags hidden in rubbish behind one club, and when he returned the next day, the rubbish had been removed. Nothing remains of the collection. February 13th, 2024. The Annunciation is an oil painting by the early Netherlandish painter Hans Memling. It depicts the Annunciation, the Archangel Gabriel announcing to the Virgin Mary that she would conceive and become the mother of Jesus, described in the Gospel of Luke. The iconography focuses on the Virgin's purity. Her swan shadows the crucifixion of Jesus, and the painting emphasizes her role as mother, bride, and queen of heaven. The painting was executed in the 1480s. It was discovered in the early 19th century on the estate of the Radziwill family, in whose collection it might have been since the 16th century. It was purchased by the banker Philip Lehman in 1920, was transferred to canvas from its original oak panel sometime after 1928, and is today part of the Robert Lehman collection in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. In 1847, the art historian Gustav Frederick Wargen described the panel in one of his Memling's finest and most original works. February 14th, 2024. Annie Dove Dagmark, 1887 to 1974, was an American music educator and academic administrator who was the fifth president of Anderson College, now Anderson University, in Anderson, South Carolina. From 1928 to 1953, a talented musician in her youth, Denmark attended what is now Meredith College and graduated with an artist's diploma in piano in 1908. She began teaching piano at Anderson in 1917. She is commonly, though incorrectly, cited as the first woman president of a college or university in South Carolina. She oversaw Anderson's transition from a 4-year college to a 2-year junior college, making it the first junior college in the state. The school's debt was paid off by the South Carolina Baptist Convention in May 1938, and attendance increased for several years after World War II, when the school enrolled more men than it ever had since becoming co-educational in 1931. She left office in May 1953, concluding a 25-year presidency that remained the longest in Anderson's history. February 15th, 2024. Ernest Shackleton, 15 February 1874 to January 5th, 1922, led 3 British expeditions to the Arctic during the heroic age of Arctic exploration. He and 3 companions established a new record farthest south latitude, 112 miles, 180 kilometers from the South Pole, as part of Nimrod expedition of 1907 to 1909, and Shackleton was knighted on his return home. He planned the Imperial Transatlantic Expedition of 1914 to 1917, but his ship Endurance became trapped in ice pack and then sank on 21st November 1915. The crew escaped and used the lifeboats to reach Elephant Island and ultimately the island of South Georgia in a stormy ocean voyage of 720 nautical miles, 830 miles, 1,330 kilometers. Shackleton's most famous exploit. He returned to the Arctic in 1921 with the Shackleton Rowett expedition, but died of a heart attack on South Georgia. At his wife's request, he was buried there. In the latter part of the 20th century, Shackleton became a role model for leadership in extreme circumstances. February 16th, 2024. Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands is a song by the American songwriter Bob Dylan, pictured. First released as the final track of Dylan's 7th studio album, Blonde on Blonde, in 1966, the song lasted 11 minutes and 23 seconds and occupies the entire fourth side of the double album. The song was written by Dylan and produced by Bob Johnson. The music is a waltz in 6/8 time. Most writers agree that the song was composed for Dylan's wife, Sarah Lunds. Dylan's lyrics polarized critics. Several reviewers found them impenetrable, but rated the song favorably. Later writers have often agreed with this praising the sound, dismissing the lyrics, and rating the song as amongst Dylan's best work. It was covered by a variety of artists, including Joan Baez on Any Day Now in 1968, and Richie Havens on Mixed Bag 2, 1974. Roger Waters of Pink Floyd said the song changed his life. and George Harrison wrote that the track influenced aspects of the Beatles' song Long, Long, Long. February 17th, 2024. The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons, and The Legend of Zeracle, Oracle of Ages, are two 2001 action-adventure games in the Legend of Zelda series, developed by Flagship, a subsidiary of Capcom, head office pictured, and published by Nintendo for the Game Boy Color. The player controls the protagonist Link from an overhead perspective as he collects various items hidden in dungeons and guarded by bosses. After experimenting with porting the original Legend of Zelda to the Game Boy Color, the Flagship team, supervised by Yoshiki Okamoto, began developing 3 interconnected Zelda games that could be played in any order. They later cancelled one of the games. Both Seasons and Ages were critical successes and sold 3.96 million units each. Critics complimented the gameplay, colorful designs, and graphics quality, but criticized the inconsistent sound quality. Both games were re-released on the Virtual Console for a Nintendo 3DS in May 2013, and on the Nintendo Switch service in July 2023.